over and over again, maybe promoting people from Academy, but also there are a lot of teams that are actively making themselves worse right now. And it feels almost like it's been too easy for 100 Thieves, the one team that decided to make a positive roster addition at the start of the split, as opposed to other teams just maintaining themselves in the same fashion or making themselves worse. So Thorin, have you ever seen this many roster moves in an esport before? Because this is highly unusual heading into the summer split, especially in LCS.
To clarify, we are just talking about LCS here, because
yes,
obviously, like in LEC, as far as I can tell, some of those roster moves are like performance related, and those teams probably are fucked if they don't do those moves. So we're not doing that. Basically, yes, the key characterization here is, as far as we can tell, these are overwhelmingly moves where basically this is why you can never, ever help people in esports, because there's only two ways it goes. It goes like this. Here's an idea you've never heard before. A new idea, well, that's not an idea I've had before, so I dismiss it immediately. So then what you do is you go, fuck, well, what do these plebs know? Shit, you ever heard of sports? They go, yeah, I remember the old sports ball with Dad and Bucky Roo. What's that all about? And you go, well, in the sports, never mind the reasons, they just do this, and then they go, I'll take it into consideration. And that's about as close as you can get, right? The third option would be, let's just like explain things without it having to be like sports. So unfortunately, it took so long to get people to the idea that maybe for legitimate reasons you could bench people like in sports, that now the prevailing opinion among coaches in North America goes like this. If anything goes wrong, just bench one of your best players. That'll teach him. Cocksucker, it'll teach you very quickly how to be unemployed. That's probably the dumbest possible tip. Basically, in my opinion, I'm not exaggerating. When you bench a player who's a star for performance reasons, I'm not joking. He should never be returning to your lineup as far as I'm concerned. Like, what you've actually had to say then is, it's gotten so bad, I'm going to have to cut it off. I'm going to cut off a functional arm so the gangrene doesn't get to the rest of my body and kill me. And I'm going to go as a three-limbed man for the rest of my days, knowing that's better than dying. There's no, like, I'm going to cut it off for now, and then in 2 months re-attack. That doesn't work. All you've got then is a team with him back in it, with worse practice, who has none of the fundamentals. Like, the whole thing's dumb as fuck. Because I don't hate it, by the way. I've known players that was so outrageous, I might have kicked him in that scenario. But as in, I knew if I'd have kept them in the lineup, it also couldn't work. Like, there was nothing could be done. These can't be. Just look how many cases there are, Monty. What are we talking now? Like 6, 7 players?
Exactly.
It can't be as extreme as this, guys. It can't be this extreme.
It's also the fact that almost all of these seem to stem from some level of player personality mismanagement, or maybe Dardoch is a case where you could argue, okay, this guy has been benched from so many teams at this point in time. We have on-camera evidence.
Team, sure.
Yeah, we have on-camera evidence that he can be an extremely unreasonable human being.
Sure.
Whether he's grown or changed or not is a question, obviously, that we can't know.
This, mate. Because when he was going to join TSM, I wrote a piece where I explained, like, look, he's already had a million chances. It's probably not going to work, is it? TSM moron fans, well, that's not true. First of all, you didn't even mention Echo Fox. Yeah, I didn't mention every story ever from his career, by the way. Secondly, I hadn't had the chance to investigate Echo Fox. Spoiler bonus for you. People from Echo Fox reached out and were like, oh, he was doing all that shit here. And then here's the punchline of all punchlines. When I just happened to say in passing on a show, like, I actually haven't even heard that he's, had any issues in TSM this split. And then I had people from TSM reach out, yeah, he's doing all that shit again. So, spoiler, every single fucking one on the bingo, Dardoch checked off. Every team he was ever in, as far as I can tell, everyone ever, did them all. Did the whole thing. So, even in his case, beggars belief, doesn't it? Come on, man. I have to say, in his case, though, this is the one I don't get right. I don't mind if you're a scenario where it's like a player that's never had issues before. Let's imagine, even though it's not the case, let's imagine the Alfari one had been legit, right? He's just, he's gone to America for the first time. He's wigging out. Something's gone wrong personally with him, and maybe culture clash with Americans. I don't know. There's a million angles you could go with, right? In that scenario, okay, it's a very tough scenario for both people. You've never been in that situation. They've never had to deal with you. The Dardoch one is like, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. What did you imagine you were signing? So when you made this bum-ass roster for Dignitas that never had a hope in hell of ever making it to Worlds with 3 spots available, you thought, oh, I'm just going to pick up this guy who's way too good for an NA jungler. I'm going to assume there's no reason why he's just available on my team cheaply to be an NA jungler. I'm going to pretend all of history doesn't exist. And then in the summer split, a few weeks in, I'm going to go, This Dardoch guy's got a lot of attitude problems that are really fucking up my team. You know who's garbage? I don't know about Dardoch yet, but here's the order. The GM of Dignitas, the coach of Dignitas, anyone else related to Dignitas, no, whatever. That part's a joke, obviously. What a joke this is. Dude, how many seasons? And then you're buying this player now. This is mental. This is actually insane.
Okay, I think the Dardoch one is one of the more understandable results that happened. But
why is he in the team?
Especially,
why is he in the team?
Yeah, exactly. Especially after the spring playoffs where he was clearly tilted out of his mind. You could tell just from the way he was playing. We mentioned it at the time where what he was doing in those playoffs was egregious. Like, he should have been off the team at that moment in time. At least you would have had, some level of practice period between spring and summer to integrate somebody else. Instead, you knew what the problem was. You saw the problem previously. That has always been the problem. And then once again, you end up in a spot where you don't even have time to reconstitute this team in any meaningful way. And by the way, Dignitas could have used that time to import a jungler because God knows they have import slots. So I think really it's shocking what happened there and why this wasn't dealt with in a more expedient fashion. Now, for the rest of the roster moves, I think this is really what's confusing to me, because you look at teams that made no changes, such as, I don't know, Immortals, TSM. These are rosters that we've seen kind of on the rise by making no changes.
TSM ever fuck up and make a roster move, which fuck their whole team. Let's make it funny. Give us a fucking break. Why is it all these like orgs I actually care about doing that? Can't get a break, can we?
And then, your clearly incorrect video on Jat from Team Liquid, which, the result was lucky again.
Yeah, just so we can clarify this a second, guys. A video I made, which you all, because you're morons, and went, I've seen him on loads of desks over the years at 4 minutes a time, so it must be who he says he is. Let's just check this. Let's just see what level of W we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
The coach got fucking fired. Willingly resigned before Worlds and before the end of a split in which he could have won the split. And I'm supposed to just sit back and go, this can't be a W for me, would it? They only literally removed the guy I said was the problem in their team. Give me a break, guys. Like, there couldn't be a bigger W in this sense. But as usual, Orange Man bad, so we all had to put, Ginger Man bad or whatever. So we had to pretend like I just locked into it again and tripped over and got it all right again. Fucking hell, give me a break.
Well, I think the craziest thing was that people just straight up believed a Team Liquid press conference.
They still believe him at the end, dude. They're still believing the statements towards the end. Like, oh no, actually, it said that it was because Alphari had the emotional problem. Well, how does any of the story make sense? How the fuck, if it was all about Alphari having real personal problems, does it make sense that Jat is leaving the team? None of this makes sense. As usual, I learned this a long time ago. Like, cover stories aren't actually supposed to be like, a fake version of the ending of a murdered procedural where it like covers all the case. No, all they have to be literally is a tiny fragment of hope for a moron. And it's like giving a little crying child a little fucking dandelion. There you go. That's all they need to just fucking capture their mind.
I can believe that Alphari was having some personal issues, but again, it doesn't respond to any of the other things that happened within this roster, right? I can believe that Santorin is having some level of health issues. That one seems plausible and would explain what's going on in isolation of itself. But like you said earlier, Thorin, what's so shocking to me is that this roster with a sub jungler was nearly capable of winning the LCS last split. So why they were one game away from winning LCS, one game away from going to MSI. And so the fact that everything has exploded, I want the new breaking point is all I'm going to say, because there's got to be some crazy shit.
Because let's face it, Jensen went on fucking Hotline League, laughed it all off like nothing happened. Core JJ did an AMA days before Jat resigned, saying, I find Jat fine to me. So basically, we're all wrong, guys. Alphari having personal issues has made Jat decide he doesn't want to ever work in the field of coaching for Team Liquid again. That makes a lot of sense. Let's just stick with the official story. It's fucking bonkum, the whole thing. And by the way, I don't find it cool to do what Team Liquid's doing right now. I'm sick of this industry doing this. Well, what you do is this, you go, well, look, because a person is having personal issues, that's fine to mention. No, you're running it as a cover story for your entire fucking org's malpractice. You're making someone's... By the way, that's his fucking... What's it got to do with you to publicise his personal issues? Does he not have his own Twitter account? Can he not mention, oh, by the way, guys, the reason why I've been out the last few weeks is I've been having some... No, you're just going to go out on Front Street yourself as a fucking company. Companies are not humans. don't. They don't have values and feelings. You do that to benefit the company. So I'm sick and tired of that because people think, right, oh, but it's fine to no, because they run interference with those stories. Those stories are nonsense. Listen, the coach didn't resign because someone had personal issues. You didn't let a coach resign because someone had personal issues. The personal issues never had anything to do with this whole fucking story. It's all a smokescreen. But as usual, people just so desperately need to believe, chat, I don't know why, is for them a good coach in a scenario where some people disagree. Notice I didn't even say he isn't a good coach. How the fuck would I know? Just doesn't seem like the people who work with him agree, do they?
Well, I mean,
I don't know if you saw this as well. This is how perfect Reddit is. They managed to take the one roster move that was almost inarguably good and make it the negative. Loads of them were going, Monty, I'm not joking, like, I was a Team Liquid fan, I've given up all hope now. You dumb motherfucker. This was the return of hope. You're basically like at fucking Helm's Deep, and you're just like, oh, there's all bloody like cavalry coming over the hill or something. Fuck it, just give up, right? Just kill ourselves, can't win. It's over. This battle's done. Don't wreck. Fuck it, no elves are coming. Are they? I'm off. I'm knocking off. I'm not sticking around here. You're so dumb, it's unreal. Basically, if you don't know, I'll make it more explicit. The whole fucking team hated this guy, didn't value his game knowledge at all, and it simultaneously told me they fuck heavy with Cold and think he's legit as fuck as a coach. Who's the main coach now? Oh, it's the guy Cold. The guy who, by the way, was the jungler in the Origin team that actually was one of the only teams that could go head-to-head with G2. I think I like Team Liquid's chances. I'll take him to win the fucking split, mate.
I think here's the other thing too about Cold is that during the offseason, so between Worlds last year and the start of this year, Cold was actually one of the most sought after coaches by teams in LCS.
It makes sense. He got mad player hype from all the players. He
had a ton of interviews, guys. I know multiple teams that were going after him. Teams were telling me that they really liked him, thought he was on the ball in terms of his game knowledge and at least his strategic coaching abilities. It doesn't seem like a strategic coaching failure on Team Liquid overall. Clearly not. The fact that they were able to do so well, given the various problems that they've had, especially with Santorin, says a lot, I think, about their coaching staff. And again, to reiterate what Thorin said,
I assumed Jack was a good coach because actually when he looked from the outside, you were like, what the fuck? First split, he comes in, he's got tactical, then he comes and he has to use a sub jungle. He's like, from the outside, someone was doing something, weren't they?
Yeah. And I think, too, it's like you said, it's difficult because we weren't there to have a read on Jat's coaching abilities, and he may be a good coach for a different team, but it seems like...
Certainly.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, his from knowing him and working with him, I will say, like, he is a very calm person. I think he is very capable of kind of working out debates between players, as he tends to take a more questioning approach to get to the bottom of things. And I think he could be with the right players and the right system and the right delegation, I guess, if Thorin, those players' opinions that you've heard are accurate, then I think he could be, if he takes a step back and focuses more on the head coach and like personnel management side of things rather than the strategic side of things, I think, he could be very good. And maybe he was good at that aspect of it. But whatever happened within this team, whatever blow up that occurred, because clearly there was some kind of cataclysmic event that happened that resulted in all of this, because you can tell, because the PR was so hastily done and badly done around this entire thing about how they announced it, that there was something very odd happening on the inside where they could not, you can tell Team Liquid was not in control of this situation and had not come to a PR strategy with Alphari, which probably means that they were not talking to Alphari, if I had to guess, at the time that this happened, because there was no consensus across all parties of how to message this. So clearly something weird happened. Like, we know that. And I think it's odd that effectively what it appears Team Liquid did was initially side with the coaching staff and then immediately realize that they had no chance of Worlds without Alphari, and then just go with Alphari's story and opinion. That is also extremely strange, to kind of boomerang like that. And going with Alphari was obviously the way they were always going to go, because he is much more critical to their team. They paid a lot of money in order to get him onto the roster. He's the core. He probably should have been the MVP last split. I don't think it should have been Blabber personally. And then also, you're looking at who is more critical to this team's success. And going to Worlds, by the way, guys, is immensely important to these teams. And it's immensely important to these teams' sponsors. If you don't go to Worlds, it is disastrous from a financial perspective, if that's your expectation. And it has to be when Team Liquid made this roster. Like, anything short of going to Worlds is a failure, period.
And by the way, yeah, I'll be the one to say it. Miss me with your whole storyline about contracts where you're all crying fake crocodile tears because he had an emotional moment when he finally got back in LCS and won a game. You all won't give a fuck about this guy in 3 weeks when he's gone again. You won't shed one tear for him. You all just bought into your fucking Hallmark movie of the week moment where you got to use someone's real life and toil and struggle as some sort of fucked up vicarious little feel-good moment that you just pushed on and went, it's nice that. Now get him out of my sight. I don't want to watch him play League of Legends because you're not going to give a fuck. They're not going to Worlds with EG. They're not winning the split. Listen, for him personally, seems like a cool story. It doesn't seem like he's that good a player. I imagine he'll be gone soon enough. So whatever. Enjoy your week, everyone.
I think Contracts actually is based on his performance at 100 Thieves last year. Now, I haven't been watching Academy this year, but I actually think he is probably an LCS caliber jungler. So I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Liquid didn't make a move on him because I think he's kind of like the next man up who is LCS capable. But I mean, if they want to run with Armao or whatever, that's cool, I guess. I think it's fascinating what Liquid is doing, and I'm curious when we are going to see Alphari back in the picture and what these issues are that could be resolved in a few weeks' time. I also think, like, talking about some of the other teams that are making these roster moves, like you mentioned with Evil Geniuses, a lot of teams have taken, because there are more games in the summer split for each of the teams, they've managed to kind of rotate in some academy players, which was a lot of the complaints about talent development. Like, we saw Golden Guardians do that this past week as well.
I can't handle this narrative. The whole point of adding more games was to make the split more competitive, to make the region better, to make them able to compete with LPL and LCK that are playing best of 3 all day. So instead what we do is everyone just tank the first part of the split because it doesn't matter because it counts from spring split anyway. We've already got a playoff split. And then we've got double limb, so it also doesn't matter what placing you are in the bracket as long as you make top 4. So joke's on you again. You've made the format even worse. And then thirdly, now let's just test out a load of talent for next year to sell to each other incestuously, or to just figure out that actually this guy's not any good. Fuck him as well. So essentially, as usual, what I learned about League of Legends about a decade ago still maintains the case. Every real solution that would solve the problem for 99% of people is abused by 1% of people to utterly ruin the system, but that those 1% are called the LCS owners. So there we go. You can't help them. You cannot help them. Nothing you can do can help these people. Everything you give them, it's like you give them a hammer, they just hurt their own dick and go, oh, fuck, that hurts. And you go, I just have to take my hammer away then, don't I? Fuck me. What, you don't know what to do with you guys.
I think also,
I want to give you this hacksaw.
I also think what's shocking is, like, we can't even know how good 100 Thieves is because everyone else has basically intentionally gimped themselves.
That just sucks.
Now, to be clear, I actually think 100 Thieves could potentially do some damage internationally, especially see how the other regions at the same time, and basically 100 Thieves' ability to play such a wide variety of different compositions and champions and being so convincing in their victories. But this 100 Thieves now almost reads like Cloud9 from spring of last year, where it's incredibly difficult to get a read on them because they are just so much better than the rest of the competition. I mean, it's unless we see Team Liquid step up again and actually put Alphari back in, which, by the way, we're assuming that happens. There is no guarantee, guys. There is no guarantee. Until it actually happens and it starts to work, I'm not believing anything that Team Liquid as an org is actually saying about this entire move. So I'm really amazed by what's going on with a lot of these rosters, because it just seems like in the most important split, teams are either not making upgrades or actively downgrading themselves in very weird ways.
You want to know something funny, right? Here's for real. He's even said it on Troll, so he doesn't care me saying. Do you want to know for real what Nelson from G2's take on the Western LCS particularly is?
Yeah, let's go.
Just don't play enough games.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yep. Literally,
this man has been there and done it in the LMS and LPL.
So that's what I've said every time.
He's watched and he looks and he goes, look, before we can even talk about whether you could beat these teams, you don't practice as much, so it's over.
Yes.
And he's right, because people don't get the arms race that goes on within the LPL. They stupidly think this, Monty, and I've heard this argument so many times from idiot Western pros. They think, well, of course, if I was in TSM, I'd be willing to try. No. The idea you have to get to the top of your region, already be able to go to Worlds, fail, and then you think, something's wrong with how I'm practicing. That's why you'll never, ever win Worlds. Because in the LPL, no one even told the person in the 15th best LPL team, you have to practice the most insane schedule. They just understand, well, that goes without saying, because we haven't done everything else we need to win, so we better do that first. If you're in Korea, no one has to tell a guy, well, you know, if you were to put in like 6 more days a week work of diligent practice, you could be paid $400,000. No, that player knows I don't even get to be a practice partner if I don't kill myself in practice and work every single day. It goes without saying in these regions that you're not going to have a PSA that convinces everyone in the West, like, we're just done, boys. It's over. We're WWE. If you want to be WWE, we can have some fun with it. Listen, we've got the best trash talkers in the world. We can go fucking crazy with features. But the idea that, like, any of this, like, as you see, can you imagine being LPL teams looking over at this joke in LCS and all the teams just making roster moves? By the way, when they make a roster move, it's because they might keep that rookie and just go and win Worlds or something. Like, you're doing it just to dick around for 3 weeks. Like, they must just be laughing. They're already that far ahead, but you're just making it laugh now.
I think it's just
sad.
It's interesting how LPL went from, you know, the players controlling the teams, and the LPL used to be notorious because of all the streaming contracts that the players would get, where the streaming contracts were paying more money than the actual teams were paying to the players. So the players controlled the teams, which hurt, you know, their practice, their teamwork, the coach's ability to control the players. Now we're talking about, you know, 2014-ish here when all of this was happening, 2015. And so that is why, by the way, LPL was doing so badly. But ever since basically the stream wars ended in China, where a bunch of the platforms consolidated, they realized that paying these players insane streaming, contracts, salaries was unsustainable. So then you actually had the teams paying more money, which increased the competition and the control that the teams had. This resulted in addition to strong rookie development of China doing very well. Now, you know, we don't have any of that in the West. And it also is the format itself. We've touched on this before, Thorin, but the effective time to play a best of one is not different substantially than a best of 3. When you have to ship the players all the way over to the LCS studio, you have to go into the practice room, get everybody set up, get set up on stage, have your pre-draft meeting or have your pre-game meetings, etc. Like, playing a best of 3, it's already a day commitment to play a best of 1, basically. And so playing an additional hour or hour and a half to get 1 or 2 more games in there is not substantially different, but it does give you more stage experience. So the fact that it's best of 1s and the fact that they're playing 3 of these a week. So most LCS teams will take like Monday off. So today, so when guests join us, they're usually joining us on the day off. And the European teams take Sunday off, but because the European teams only have 2 days a week, they actually have 1 more day of meaningful practice. And what I've been hearing from the managers and coaches is that this 3 best of 1 schedule has really cut into practice time. So yes, I think it's a motivation issue. I totally agree, but it's also fundamentally a format issue where the league, the way the league operates limits your time that you have available to practice to 3 days a week, because you're spending all day to play 1 game 3 days a week. And that's what's crazy to me.
And also, again, am I missing something? When did God wake up and go, and thou shalt never play an LCS game except on Friday, Saturday, or possibly Sunday? Like, he never said that. So if you go and watch the LPL, it's on like every day except
LCK
1 hour.
is on every
LCK is on pretty much every day as well.
5 days a week.
The whole point is, they figured out years ago, if this is a real sport, let's actually fucking schedule it like a real sport and see if it responds. What they do in the West is this: they give you 1 split or 1 year of best of 3, then go, right, well, that didn't work perfectly in all scenarios, so remove it. It's the format, not the fucking cretin implementing it. And people, no joke, Monty, it's a given now. Or people just don't want to watch best of 3. That's like when people tell me my entire career, people don't have a long attention span, Thorin. You should just do short stuff. I wonder who won that one. I wonder who probably won that one. I think I did on that one. The point is, if so much shit, yeah, no one's going to watch it 3 games in a row. So if your whole premise is, well, my format is so good because it makes my dog shit product not get really boring for people. So it sounds like you mentioned want to improve the format, mate. Like, and the product itself. Why not do the best format with the best product? Level it up.
What I love, Thorin, is like the assumption.
Because you'll never beat this, by the way, Monty, because here's the other comeback they always do. And as soon as they say this, my heart sinks because the conversation's over. They go, but who wants to watch 4 games of the worst team playing?
Precisely.
You want to be watching them playing. Nobody watched the Cleveland Browns play American football for about 20 years. 20 fucking years. And you know what? You could watch the NFL perfectly fine. You never missed a single thing. You ever get every now and then, maybe you saw one game that got televised, and at no point did anyone go, this is really limiting my ability to enjoy the NFL, not being able to watch the Cleveland Browns. No, the point is you'd only watch 8 hours of sick games and you'd skip the shit you don't want to watch. And you know what's best as well? You would see a massive impact on the worst franchises, and it might actually, are you ready for the good franchises? It might actually do something to get these cocksuckers thrown out when they then don't bring any views and they're filling up 4 hours a week. You might actually have to kick them out then, Riot. That would be a good thing for everyone. Everyone.
The other thing too, Thorin, that I find interesting is that there is this underlying assumption whenever these conversations are had that it must be a league format. They're like, well, I don't want to watch the same number of best of threes between, I don't want to watch the same number of best of threes between Rogue and G2 as I do SK versus XL, right? Well, we live in a purely hypothetical universe. Use the power of your fucking imagination and say, what if we didn't play a league format? What if we just scheduled fewer of the bad games and more of the good games? Like, these are all options. These are all options. And we've talked about this before. When we designed the Flashpoint format, it was a hybrid tournament league system. Because here's the truth about these teams. They have to have a certain number of games so that they can have value for their sponsors and that they can go to market and sell. But you can also make them have, fewer games while increasing the number of good games for the good teams, which gives you a base floor of games you're going to have. But if you use GSL brackets, which is a double elimination group, what you can do is you can make sure that the worst teams only play 2 best of 3s, but the best teams play more best of 3s. They can play 3 best of 3s, right? They can play 4 best of 3s potentially. So these are the options that you have when you manipulate formats so that you can create more good games, fewer bad games, but still set a base floor of games. Like, I think that as much as I enjoyed having the champions bracket where it was the groups into the single elimination bracket back in the day in Korea, I understand that for many teams that are eliminated within the first few days of the tournament, that's not very good for teams that have paid massive franchise fees. So you have to find an adjustment there. But this is the arguments are so disingenuous whenever I see them, because the underlying assumptions are we have to have a league format, or we have to have a format where all teams play equal amount of games, which just is not true. It's just not true. You can make whatever you want, in fact, and no one is out there actually proposing decent formats for these systems.
Also, like, 2 things. One, again, I realize this is the business model. It's just not what I chose. Who the fuck would ever want to be in a system where the worst, least contributing member of the group goes, base everything around what I want? That sounds like a madness for a start off. It sounds like almost some argument against democracy. By the way, I always say this, democracy is the crowd choosing Barabbas over Jesus. Thumbs up, guys. That's the system you guys love. Second point, they actually, if they'd have ever thought it through, Riot Korea didn't do this because they just took their cues from the giant bonghole that is Riot Global. The obvious move was this from day one, Monty. Just make fucking NLB a bigger thing, and then when you go out, you're still in NLB and you still have TV viewership. Like, that would have been the real move, but that would involve actually supporting the grassroots scene. Instead, what they did was cripple the grassroots scene for about 3 or 4 years until finally some teams just through brute force got through the challenger scene that were good, basically Griffin and Damwon, and then they had to be like, oh, maybe we should actually do something with this challenger thing, like sound. So you figure that out 5 years too late then. As usual, the problem with Riot is really this, and it's a feature, not a bug. They just do that thing where they fuck things up so badly, only they know how to fix it, and then their fix is a very inconvenient, not very good one. But they go, well, I'm the only one who could fix this bloody mess I caused. And you go, well, I guess you win on that one then, mate. I don't have the control. I'm not the fucking, like, a priori prime mover, am I? So I can't win on that one. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.